Good, thank you very much. My name is Janko Bucic. My role is Chief Product Owner for Operations at SAP. And I will provide you with a kind of overview for SAP Cloud ALM, our platform for the operation of cloud-centric landscapes. So let me first of all start with a kind of overview where we explain a little bit why we provide such a platform. And after this, we will go to some use cases in deeper detail. And at the end of the session, I will share with you the roadmap and also some additional information. Now, first of all, we are in a situation that SAP decided to move away from our classical architecture, which is a kind of monolithic on-premise-based architecture, more in the direction of cloud service-based architecture. This means we have a distributed environment, several cloud services which interact with each other. This comes with some additional challenge, so we have to take care that we are not losing the overall picture, so we have to make sure that we have a certain visibility in our end-to-end business processes. It's a bit more complex also to find root causes because we have much more component involved in the processing of our business processes. And that's why we decided to invest in SAP Cloud ALM. And here the operation part, we provide you with different capabilities, starting with business process monitoring down to a kind of technical monitoring, but also integration is obviously a very important topic, as well as user monitoring. Also to explain you a little bit the boundary conditions, SAP Cloud ALM can be used by all customers who have a cloud subscription or an enterprise support contract with no additional costs. We have just a kind of fair usage approach. If you overuse that, then we have also a way to extend this license. But beside this, you can directly start with it. It is highly automated to deploy it. So we also tried here to have a very low entry barrier. We have in total several platforms. We have the classical SAP Solution Manager, quite distributed in our customer base, designed and available in particular for on-premise centric customers, medium and larger customers. SAP Solution Manager is in mainstream maintenance until 2027. The operation part of SAP Solution Manager will leave then directly the mainstream maintenance and enter customer-specific maintenance. For the build part and the service part, we will also have the capability to enter after 2027 extended maintenance. Then we have SAP Focus Run, which is a kind of spin-off of SAP Solution Manager, intended for service providers who have to provide a huge amount of managed entities, or for application service management service providers who are interested to follow a single user interface calls or user requests in deep detail. As well, it is intended for our high-end hybrid customers who have special needs which cannot be satisfied by our standard platform, SAP Solution Manager and SAP Cloud ALM. And SAP Cloud ALM, and this is the topic for today, is in particular intended for cloud-centric customers, meaning the majority of the landscape is running in the cloud. We support all sizes of cloud-centric customers, and we support with SAP Cloud ALM also some on-premise products, in particular ABAP-based products like S/4HANA and Business Suite. However, we are not supporting with SAP Cloud ALM all on-premise products. So we are here really focused on standardized cloud-based operation. So this means we are running in the cloud, and we are supporting also over time all cloud products of SAP. With this, let's come to the overview. What is our target? Our target is to ensure that your services and systems stay up and running. This means we have to make sure if you have a certain disruption that this is identified, that it is clearly set in one area we have this disruption, and that we also, if possible, provide you with corrective actions to work on this. For this, we provide you with a full stack monitoring starting with the business processes and going down to technical KPIs. Monitoring means for us also alerting, so we have also alerting always embedded in our monitoring use cases. In addition, we have root cause analysis, so certain drill downs in data, so that you can also react appropriately. We consider SAP Cloud ALM is a collaboration platform between line of business and IT. So this means some of the use cases are more addressing the needs of line of business users. Other use cases are more addressing the needs of IT users. We have integration with operations automation. This means out of SAP Cloud ALM, out of an alert, you can trigger operation flows. And here we have embedded several, or we have integrated several operation automation environments. We have also an intelligent event processing, which is a central event management system, which allows us at the end to handle all types of events, of IT events in one central platform, and also to enable here event correlation and also intelligent alerting. And then in addition, we provide you visibility on business service level. This means we consolidating certain technical services to business services and expose status events, status information, then at the level of the business services. On the more conceptual level, this means we do the following. We do problem management. This means we are collecting matrix configuration items, log entries, events, and alerts at the inbound side, mainly for the managed entity, partially also from our monitoring capabilities. We attach this information to one of our use cases, whether it's business process monitoring or indication exception monitoring down to health monitoring. Partially also we feed this in our analysis use cases like configuration and security analysis. Out of the monitoring, you can generate events. This means you have not to sit always in front of a monitor. You can also say, if we have a particular situation, if a certain threshold is exceeded, if I have a certain anomaly, then I trigger an event. This event can then lead to several follow-up activities. Out of an event, we can generate an alert, but we must not generate an alert. So we can also have events without alerts, if you like to say so, so-called manually generated events. We can send out notifications like chat messages or emails. We can also use our embedded analytics and intelligence capabilities, which are embedded directly in the use cases to work with the data, to see what could be the root cause for a certain problem. And we can also trigger for corrective actions, operation flows. And this means at the outbound side, again, we are sending out emails or chat messages. We can also integrate with an existing ticket system. So we have a generic ticket integrator. We are working also on a generic task integration, but we can also expose the data to external analytics tools like Grafana, for instance, or we can trigger operation flows. We have integration in 3 different operation automation environments, and this is the BTP workflow, the BTP RPA, and then also the automation pilot. On top of all of this, we have the business service management. Again, we summarize more or less all operational events and status events in one view. And then we present this status information in the event calendar for the different business services. And we can also provide certain service levels for these business services. Good, let's now go to the details. Let's consider the use cases a bit deeper in detail. So the first thing what I like to explain to you is the business process monitoring. So we go here now top down. The idea is quite straightforward. We are at the end collecting from our solutions, from our applications, which is maybe S4 Business Suite and SuccessFactors, certain business process KPIs. For this, we have embedded in our application certain sensors, which are then, where we then retrieve via API utilization the appropriate KPIs. And this is true for on-premise as well as for cloud products. And then based on these KPIs, we can then say, okay, is this a good situation or bad situation? Is my order entry as I expected, or is it a kind of derivation? And then I have to react appropriately. Here, really the target is to ensure business continuity from business process perspective. And again, we visualize this appropriately. You see this here in the screenshot. We see what is normal, what is not normal. You can define thresholds, and you can then react appropriately. Interesting is that we more or less lowered here the barrier to configure this, which means you don't need model business processes for this. In a certain sense, we auto-discover what are relevant KPIs, and then we switch on the data collection automatically, and you can then refine your configuration step by step. The next capability I like to introduce to you is the integration and exception monitoring. This is intended to ensure reliable data exchange between cloud services and systems. It's clear, as we distribute our functionality in different cloud services, as more data need to be exchanged between the different cloud services, and as higher is the need to have a central point to understand the overall picture. Yeah, and the exchange could be between cloud services via peer-to-peer interfaces. We can use orchestration environments like the integration suite. We can also have data exchange between cloud and on-premise. So all types of this data exchange is covered with the integration and exception monitor. Our target is to come to an end-to-end monitoring. This means correlating integration artifacts coming from the different services and systems to end-to-end flows. And I will show you this in a second. If we are not capable to build this end-to-end message flows, at least we like to understand what are the integration-related exceptions. Also, one approach is to unify peer-to-peer interfaces as this one, as well as orchestrated interfaces, meaning if you have an integration component in between, then we also like to see here the end-to-end flow, and we try to provide you with a unified look and feel, whether it's peer-to-peer or orchestrated integration. We will provide you also with efficient problem resolution for both, for business and IT, because integration problems can have technical root causes as well as business-related root causes. In this sense, we need here appropriate transparency and give access to it for business users and IT users. We have integrated in the application monitoring, alerting, analysis, and search and track functionality. So in this sense, we have the one-stop application approach implemented here. So let's now look a little bit to the details. This is the launchpad of SAP Cloud ALM. You see now here all the different applications I mentioned already to you. And I like to give you now a short demo for integration and exception monitoring. You will see that the look and feel of the application is always quite similar. We have always here on the left-hand side the functionality. And then on the top, we have always common functionality, like in this case, an auto refresh mechanism. We have here always a scope selector where you can see what are the scenarios or systems I'm interested in. We have also a time selector, which is also standardized and helps you here. And we have a configuration panel where you can also add your configuration and also adapt your configuration. So this is for all use cases the same. And then here in the content area, we have always one tab for overview. This is a kind of standard navigation, which is reacting to the selected scope. But you can also in the application define certain favorites. This is more for the experienced user who is, for instance, saying, I'm only interested in Ariba networks -42K. Then at the end, you can define a favorite for this, and then you can jump directly to the application of your choice. You see here on the status information, obviously this is a test environment. We have a lot of red here. We see we have in this business service several components involved. We have S/4HANA Cloud involved. We have an integration suite, CPI involved. We have field service management involved. You see we have a amount of alerts here. This is the favorite button. We have additional information, what could be seen here. The status information to see whether we are in a critical mode. Also, we have an indication regarding the data quality. And from here, you can now jump to the details. We see now for this scenario an overview. This is the amount of message which is handled in the considered time frame. These are the amount of exceptions and the amount of alerts. We get here a graphical representation where you see now your involved cloud services. Obviously, we have exceptions or failed message artifacts on all levels. You can now navigate here, and then you see, okay, these are now my AIF messages. I have certain AIF messages which failed, others were processed correctly. We see here also certain exceptions, and the same is then true also for CPI. Also here we see now certain CPI messages failed, and we have also certain exceptions by deploying certain integration artifacts. And then we have also exceptions here in the field service management and also some successful messages. So let's go to the AIF message in deeper detail. You see now you have now here a problem. You can drill in this problem. And then you see here a graphical representation. As you can imagine, there could be now a lot of messages which are shown. That's why we decided to provide you here with a filter bar that you can decide, I'm only interested in this type of message, and I'm only interested in the errors. So then your list is already easier but consumable. You can now jump here directly to message if you like. And then you see here the message details. We have always a kind of header information, what you see here on top. It's also called status details. And then we have also an application-specific part. In the application-specific part, we have, in this case, for the category AIF message, certain general information. We have also here a message number, but we have also the jump in URLs to your local monitoring in AIF. Now, important, I told you already that we are interested in end-to-end monitoring. This means out of these message artifacts, we are constructing end-to-end message flows. You see now here all messages which are somehow belonging together are correlated with each other. And then with this, we can now say, what are now the messages in S4, for instance. You see here now, these are the critical ones. I can react to this appropriately. What are the messages belonging to this correlation mechanism in CPI? And what are the messages belonging to this in field service management? So this means we correlate really the end-to-end flow, so you know much better how these different messages are belonging together. So this is the idea of integration monitoring. And let's go back to the slide deck. The next use case I like to introduce to you is the real user monitoring. And here we have also a kind of end-to-end monitoring, but now at end user request. This means we are now capable to identify performance or also errors as it is experienced by the end user. This means we are collecting from the front end, but also from the involved services and systems from the back end, appropriate performance data, and we visualize this sufficiently, as you see here. So this means we have also here an end-to-end flow, and we can absolutely see whether you have a problem or not from the end user perspective. And with this, you can drill down in every single user request. We can see the front-end measurement, the server-side measurement, and you can then react to this. And this is also reached by correlation. We have different correlation approach. SAP Passport is our classical approach. It is for BTP now, in the meantime, also enabled for open telemetry correlation. So this means we are working here on different approaches to bring this data at the end together in one view. Another capability we can offer you is the synthetic user monitoring. And this is a kind of yin and yang with real user monitoring. Real user monitoring is really acting on concrete user activities with real users. Synthetic user monitoring runs independently on real users. This means we are scripting certain scenarios in the cloud or in on-premise systems, and we simulate at the end the front end. This means we have so-called runners, and in these runners we simulate, for instance, a certain browser or a certain mobile device. These runners can run in the cloud, in a so-called Docker container, or it can run also on-premise. This is at the end your decision. What is best if you like to simulate the traffic from your locations when you have to do this on-premise, you can, but you can also do it at the SAP Cloud. We are using for this Selenium. Selenium is an open source-based component which allows us the recording as well as the manipulation, and then also as the execution of the scripts. So this means we support with this most of the web applications, also not bound to SAP UI technology. Also other technologies are supported here, just depending on the open source community. Again, the Selenium scripts are executed remotely at a WebDriver infrastructure. Again, this could run in the SAP Cloud or on-premise. And again, it enables an 24/7 monitoring because it is not depending on the users. This means you can detect already performance or availability issues, even if nobody is currently executing this scenario. In this sense, you can detect issues before they are detected by end users. And we have also comparable measurements. This means you can also compare one-to-one the performance which was measured yesterday with the performance as it is measured today, because we are executing always the same activities. You are not relying on the users and what the users are clicking. This is very often not comparable. So in this sense, also here a quite powerful tool, because this is a relatively new functionality. I like to show it to you. Let me close the integration monitoring and let's go to the synthetic user monitoring. So we have here the same look and feel. This means we have here now also this two tabs. We have the overview and we have the favorites. Same logic as I explained already. And then we have here the executions and other things. And we have here also our standard functionality, auto refresh, group selector, time selector, and configuration. And now here we can now select one of these scenarios. Let's take this one. And then we see here, this is now the success factor scenario for success map, the log on, executed from different locations, right? And then you see here always the details. You see now here there was no failure, so it was working perfectly, and the performance was also somehow okay. And then you can also navigate between the different runners, meaning between the different locations in this case. It's an on-premise deployment for the runners, as you see. And then you see also how the time is differentiating. And you see now also here for the last hour how this is executed. You see status is okay. And then you can also select one of these executions. And then you see here, okay, the login was a bit, from performance perspective, a bit slow. Still okay, it's not red, but over our threshold for a warning. So that's why we say here, this is a warning. And you can also record, this is not here the case, but you can also record screenshots. This means if you like to map this name here to something human understandable, then you can also add here a screenshot. So this is also possible. So this is in very short what I like to explain to you for synthetic user monitoring. Let's go to the next use case. This is the job and automation monitoring. And here the task is quite straightforward. We like to make sure that application jobs, which are also running, for instance, in S/4HANA Cloud or in IBP or in Marketing Cloud and other solutions, that you can monitor these ones. But even more important, that you can also monitor centrally our, let's say, automation capabilities. We have more and more the target that end users are replaced by robots. This means the business processes are executed by robots, and appropriately we have to make sure that these robots are working correctly and that they are executing is also correct. And this we do with automation monitoring of this capability. And here in particular, we target IRPA as well as the workflow. So to ensure that we have also a central monitoring for our process automation capabilities. Now, what we are monitoring here is at the end the status information, meaning if ever you have an error during the execution of a job or an automation task, as well as if you have a start delay, so this job is starting too late or the response time is too slow. So this is the kind of metrics we are here considering. We took care that also the configuration effort is minimal. So this means you can just switch it on and then you get more or less all the information provided. Alerting is embedded. So this means you can also get alerted if a job fails or if a job takes too much time or has a start delay, or if, for instance, one of your robots is not available anymore. then you can also get alerted. And also analytics is embedded. This means we can also show you the history of your executions of jobs or automation tasks. So also quite powerful capability. We do this cross-cloud service. This means we have enabled all our clouds, or a lot of our cloud services, to get this data retrieved. Good. And then we have the configuration and security analysis. The idea here is that we collect configuration items from cloud service and on-premise systems, and that we store them in configuration stores, which are part of our configuration change database. And with this, if you always get such a snapshot, we do this perhaps twice a day or once a day, we can also identify if there is a change. So if we see that compared to the last time, the value is a different one for a parameter, then we obviously had a change, somebody did a change. So this is a very generic mechanism to ensure, let's say, to discover at the end changes. So this is the idea. This is a relatively newly provided application. I think it is deployed since beginning of this year, end of last year. And at the end, it comes with a regular data collection in the configuration change database. You can also browse the data via the store browser. And we have also provided you with a change analysis that you discuss this. This is a starting scope, put it like this. We plan here a lot of more functionality, like a search functionality, but also configuration validation. We plan to embed alerting and also analytics. Also, this I like to show you. This is again the configuration and security analysis. So if I go here, then we see also this capability. Same entry point as we saw before. I can now select one of these services. Now somehow it's hanging. Okay, let's check. So let's go this way. So we have now here, in this case, with our technical systems, and we see now these are ABAP systems in this case, and we see now here the different stores. Yeah, so these are the so-called configuration stores. We have different types, as you see here. Also, we see here the last timestamp, then data was collected. And then you can, for instance, check what is the ABAP kernel version. Then you get here all the details about the ABAP kernel. Or you can check what are the implemented nodes. And then you get here now all nodes which are implemented. Also, in case there was an update, you will see this here. And you see also here when this was discovered. So also this is quite important. Or you see here, what else do we have? The SAP UI5 libraries which are used. Yeah, also this is something what you can follow when you see all the SAP UI5 libraries and their versions and so on. So this is what we mean with configuration items. And again, you can now simply store this or browse this information and get the details and see where something meaningful is in. We have here the namespaces, for instance. You see now all namespaces which are configured in this particular system. Yeah. In addition, we have the change analysis. So we can now go to the change. I have to change here a little bit the time selection. Let's take last month, for instance. And then I see here the systems. We have certain changes. Let's go to the details. And then we see here we had certain namespace change, for instance. And then you can go to the details. And then you see here, okay, this name change were updated at this point in time. Yeah, so this is how you can react on this, so that you have also here a clear clarity how this fits together. Or let's go here. Then you see here also we had transports which are imported in the systems on a daily basis. Then you can check what are the transports which are here imported. And then you see here more or less all these names of these transports and the details. Yeah, so these are obviously events, change events, which are here then appropriately considered. And again, here's more to come. We will also provide you with a validation capability so that you can define a kind of target, and then you can move, can compare this to your as-is situation and react on certain derivations. Good. The next thing what we have in mind is health monitoring. Health monitoring is a kind of technical monitoring. This means here we collect technical KPIs from public cloud services. An example here is certificates, for instance. Certificates are handled by the customer. Appropriate, we need here a certificate monitoring, but also in particular from our private cloud services and our on-premise systems, we are collecting here further technical KPIs for monitoring, analytics, and alerting on these KPIs. This is in particular important also for public cloud services if you're building your own applications with the business technology platform, so the so-called PaaS use case or extension use case. For this, we provide you in the meantime also a good visibility of KPIs so that you can monitor your own application also sufficiently. I think this is really quite important that we provide you with this one. For other based on-premise systems, we provide you with a kind of lightweight system monitoring, you can say, not so detailed and not so powerful as we have it, for instance, in Focus Run, but still you can monitor certain technical KPIs. And again, for SaaS offerings, we are providing you with certain application-specific checks. We have, for instance, application checks for CPI, where we check the GMS queues, or we have application checks for HANA Cloud, for instance, where we check a lot of different technical parameters. Good, and again, embedded is then also alerting, obviously, as well as analytics. So we store also the history of the data. You can also keep this for a longer period of time so that you can also conduct root cause analysis sufficiently. Good. These are the monitoring use cases. Now again, on top of the monitoring, we have event management. And for this, we are using a capability called intelligent event processing. And with this, we can now expose from the different monitoring use cases, but also from business service management or also from external, we can expose certain events. And this is the central processing of these events. This means whatever has happened, we have here then a clear trace in the information and can react to this appropriately. So this is here the idea. And then at the outbound side, we can trigger certain downstream activities. Again, we can create alerts, we can send out notifications, we can trigger different operation flows, but we can also trigger information at certain monitoring use cases, or we trigger certain things at the business service management, or we are using external tools to work here together. So also this is all possible. And again, important is also compared to our infrastructure, SAP Solution Manager and SAP Focused Run, we unify more or less the handling of manually generated events and automatically generated events. So both can be processed. This enables us also to do correlation between manual and automatically generated events. Okay, then we have the business service management. And again, here the idea is that we summarize certain technical services, cloud services, on-premise systems to business services. Typically, a business user don't understand every single technical cloud service. We are not interested in this. We just like to understand, can I work with my business process where I'm involved to? Give me, please, a consolidated view whether I can work or whether I cannot work. And that's why we decided to consolidate status information from services and on-premise systems to business services. How we get this status information? So we get this partially from the me at SAP, from the Cloud Availability Center, and partially also from our own monitoring use cases, so that we consolidate also this. This means customers can now consume what SAP anyway provides them via the Cloud Availability Center, but they can also create own events. We can also say, I have now in my on-premise system, for instance, a maintenance period, and then I can create an appropriate event. These events are then shown in the so-called event calendar. Again, a consolidation from events on technical service level to business service level, as well as we have then also a service level management to react to this. Good, with this, I would also switch once again to a demo. So the business service management, again, helps you at the end to understand an overall status of your landscape. And you see here on top, we defined here several business services, like in this case, an lead to cash process. You see now also whenever you have a critical situation, you see the for this month, what is your availability. You see also your current work mode. With this, you can now drill in the event calendar. And in the event calendar, you see now, let's say, what are the different technical services for this particular business service. Yeah. And as I mentioned, we consolidate now this information from the different technical services to the business service. We see now here this lead to cash process has an Ariba tenant, a Commerce Cloud tenant, CPI tenant, an Event Mesh tenant, a Marketing Cloud tenant, 2 Marketing Cloud tenants, and an on-premise system. And we consolidate this all together to one view, which is shown here. And then you can check here. This is, for instance, a customer-defined disruption. We had a non-availability for CPI recognized by the customer. The customer can define such a disruption event. But also SAP can expose events. Like you see here, we have now the event mesh where SAP said here we had a 9-minute disruption. And this has a consequence for your business service. This is the lead to cash process. All customers can maintain maintenance periods, as you see here. So this is now a maintenance period of 30 hours and 45 minutes. And yeah, you can react at the end also to this. And if SAP is updating something, as you see here, then also this action log is updated and visible for customers. Yeah, so this is a quite efficient way to show the status of the landscape. You can also go to the service level reporting. I take here also the lead to cash process, and I go 1 month back. And then you see here, we had here at this day, the 17th of January, we had a not so good availability, same here at the 24th and so on. So you see it's a little bit forward, backward, and then you see here deeper detail what was going on in January. So you see here now all events, all status events, the duration, whether it is SLA relevant or not, this you can figure out here. Who's the source? Is it a customer-defined event? Is it an SAP-defined event? And then this is a summary. We see here event mesh was in total not available for 4 hours in January. And no, event mesh was not available for 23 minutes. And CPI was down for 4 hours. And the on-premise system was even down for 15 hours, 45 minutes. Yeah. So this is the way how you can work with this. Your service times you can maintain. You can always say, okay, if this service, I expect only availability at weekdays from 6 to 8 o'clock and from Saturday to Sunday from 10 to 4 o'clock. So this you can be also maintained, and then you can react to this. Good. With this, I come back to my slides. And now we will go a little bit to the roadmap so that you also understand better what we intend to do. So this is what we delivered at the second half of the last year. This is just a small summary. I mean, there were much more features. You have also to understand SAP Cloud ALM is a cloud-native application. And this means we deliver continuously new features. We don't have releases anymore, but we are providing you incrementally with small features continuously. This means we have every 2 weeks a feature release meeting where we release a certain chunk, but we can deliver every day new functionality. And this makes it quite flexible, also quite flexible to react on your requests. So what did we provide in the second half of last year? We have now also the status events visible in the different monitoring use cases. I mean, it doesn't make sense if we have a production down situation that you look in an integration flow, for instance, when very likely the data, what you see there is not up to date. In this sense, it makes sense to have the status events also visualized here. And I think for this, we have a small item in the tiles at the start page. And we have a unified aggregation and housekeeping. This is also an important feature. This means you can decide by yourself how long you keep data, in particular how long you keep raw data, and what aggregation is used. So this is now configurable, and at the end you can manage your data volumes by yourself. We provide now for most of our use cases outbound analytics APIs. This means if you like to use our data in analytics tools of your choice, like Grafana or like SAP Analytics Cloud, then you can do so. For Grafana, we are even providing you with a plugin in Grafana to consume the data easier. Yeah, and again, for most of the use cases, we have now also the data provider to give you this data. We have now also a context-sensitive navigation from monitoring to alerting. So this was also somehow missing. We added it now. This means we call this also intent-based navigation. So in this sense, you have now also the capability to figure out in the context of a certain monitoring, what are the associated alerts. We launched end of the year this new application configuration and security analysis. This was somehow a gap. This was the last application which was missing. This is now added with a first scope. And again, as I mentioned already, step by step, we will now expand the scope. We have the generic event to ticket integration. We had before only a dedicated one for ServiceNow. Now we generalized this. So you have now a generic one. You can now connect SAP Cloud ALM with your ticket system of choice. And for the status events, which were shown in the business service management, we have also now an outbound API where you can now also get every single status events and import this in your application, in your third-party tool. What we are planning in the first half of 2023. So first of all, event configuration variants. This means today you have to configure every event isolated, which is, if you have a lot of events, really a long-lasting process. So appropriately, we decided now to provide you with configuration variants. So this means you define once how a certain event shall be handled. Shall I send out an email? Shall I send out an operation flow? Shall I create a ticket? And so on. And then you can assign this configuration variant to multiple events. So this is also, at the end, increasing the configuration effort. And then also something where we asked several times from customers already, can you please provide us with default settings, default content for health monitoring? So what are thresholds, for instance, we should apply? What do you recommend to activate? Do we need everything, or is it just a selection of metrics which are important? So this is something where we're also investing heavily so that we give you also a better support. We will finalize the user interface redesign for integration monitoring. We got a lot of feedback. As I showed you already, the homepage is generated newly. We have also now the first level page changed, and now we will also proceed with this, following also here end user requests. So we are talking permanently with customers, consume here the feedback and adapt our UI appropriately. Then we have the alerting in synthetic user monitoring. This is also a big functionality. Currently, this is missing. We have just monitoring. The alerting is missing. So this will come also the first half of this year. We're introducing also a new approach how to collect data based on open telemetry. And this is in implementation. The first use cases will be released end of Q1, beginning of Q2. So in this sense, also here, we can just ask you to get in touch with us if you're interested in getting monitoring based on open telemetry, in particular for BTP path-based scenarios. So this is something where we provide you now with sufficient support, getting metrics, getting exceptions, getting also performance monitoring data. So this is now all supported. And again, we can do this with you together. On the outbound side, we are working on a generic event to task integration as well as event to chat integration. This will also come in the first half of this year. And then also to unify the configuration user experience. Also here we have different approaches in different use cases, and we try to provide you also here with a more unified approach. And then in the second half of this year, we will proceed with providing you functionality. We plan to calculate own status events in our monitoring use cases and propagate this to business service management. Also at the interface side, we plan to provide you with better support. At the inbound side, we plan to provide you with open telemetry inbound APIs so that we can consume all the data from external tools or for external non-SAP services. as well as at the outbound side, we plan to provide you with, we will finish our analytics APIs, but also raw data APIs will be provided here. We will step-by-step increase our adoption of our new data collection approach, SAP internally for our SaaS scenarios, but also for the customer-facing past scenarios. And then we will also invest in threshold-less alerting. Again, the first step comes here with synthetic user monitoring. We plan also to expand here the scope to real user monitoring. Authorizations is something which becomes more and more important for customers. We're adding more and more functional authorizations, but also we plan to provide you with authorization on data level. This means that you can, for instance, say this user has access to this business service and the other user has access to that business service. So this comes hand in hand. And then also we will increase the integration with SAP Focused Run. We see more and more customers using Focused Run and SAP Cloud ALM together. And that's why we will also here invest in the integration. From content, this is more or less the rollout. If you are interested, you can find more information at the start page, as we see here. You can also check the prerequisites. We have for this the expert portal where we have described all use cases, including the setup and so on. And again, then you can also use our expert portal or help.com to refine your configuration, put it like this. From the content perspective, we have, I think, a good coverage from content perspective. As you see here, the majority of our cloud services and on-premise systems are covered for one or the other use case. You see here, integration exception monitoring is always our front runner. S4 in all variants and Business Suite is covered by all use cases, as you see. And the others follow step by step. As you see, we have in business process monitoring currently only coverage for SuccessFactors and the other based products. As you see here, much deeper integration for integration exception monitoring, including SuccessFactors, Ariba, Concur, Fieldglass, and so on. So here we are nearly complete. Also at the BTP side, we become more and more complete here. We have the user and performance monitoring, where we have also a certain coverage and so on. More stuff to come. And as you see here, configuration and security analysis just joined us recently. So in this sense, we at the end have here also a relatively small coverage. But as you see, we have also a lot of stuff in our queue where we add step-by-step functionality here in integration monitoring, for instance, for Ariba. Subscription billing will join us, but also BTP Cloud Foundry, customer build applications will join us. So here really a lot of stuff will come and will be integrated step by step. With this, I'm at the end of my presentation. I have to thank you for your attention. I hope I can provide you with some valuable information for you.